I'd like to welcome J.D. Henderson. He is from a company called Procure. Procure is a multiple winner of our very favorite and famous TT100 awards. And you'll remember at the beginning of the year we said that we will introduce somebody who won in 2016 at each of these sessions. And so hence we've got J.D. Henderson here. Your company is a small company, right? So
yeah, it's under
in
small
the TT100 we have 3 categories, in fact 4. We have small, medium and large, and then we have emerging, okay? And so you've won this particular award twice now.
For management of people, yeah.
Yes,
correct.
And so the award that they received was management of people, and so it fits beautifully in with Charles's focus on servant leadership and so on as well. Okay. Also quite a very humble CV. Now these people who are too busy usually couldn't be bothered with CVs and so on. That's the kind of CV that you get. But anyway, as of September 2009, J.D. Henderson has been appointed Managing Director with vast sales, marketing and operations knowledge. He joined Procure as Sales and Marketing Director in May 2007 after a tenure at Dyer Bed as Commercial Director. J.D. is responsible for all sales, marketing, advertising and operational activities directly related to pharmacies as well as advertising, sales, and effectively oversees a team of salespeople and account managers. J.D. has a passion for growing businesses, as was the case with Dyer Bed, and the growth opportunities of Procure was what got him excited to join the team. So I sense an entrepreneur there, certainly, but also a driven person. So J.D. is going to talk to us this afternoon about their experiences with management of people. I'll hand it over to you.
Good. So before I start, I apologize for having my back to a couple of you behind me.
People can move over here.
And I must also apologize. I'm a very fidgety person. It's probably the first time in my life I'm going to present something to people where I'm sitting down.
You can stand up if you want.
But I start walking around and I start picking on people. so I'll try and behave today. So firstly, Dr. Blom, thank you very much for this opportunity, and also Storm for roping me in. You caught me on a very good day. But certainly for me, thank you very much to you guys for affording me an ear, so that I can talk about something which I think is a very big passion in our business, and that's people. So, as Dr. Blom said, we've been a winner at the Technology Top 100 Awards a couple of times. My involvement with Da Vinci and the Technology Top 100 Awards go back to 2007, when I started at Procure. Since 2007, I'm very, very pleased to say every single year we've either been a qualifier or a winner, and we're very, very proud of 2 years ago winning the Director General Award in our category.
Last year or the year before?
The year before.
2015.
And then I think with our next submission we might be part of the medium enterprise,
Wonderful.
Which is positive news for us. And there's a simple reason why I talk about that, and that's because of people. So to give you a bit of background about the business that we're involved in, is we develop software that the pharmaceutical environment utilizes to procure stock into their environment. Coupled with that, we also sell advertising on our software. So we talk to the decision maker at the point of making the decision, and we reinforce legislation. So by law, the pharmacist has to recommend a generic substitution to an originator drug when they fill your script. So we work in a technological environment where the common thread always is technology reduces employment opportunities. And that is something that we focus a lot on to make sure that we grow not only our business, not only the industry in which we operate, but also grow the people in that environment. So typically my presentation, I think, is normally an hour at the TT100 Awards, Storm. I've been fortunate enough to sit and listen to that, and about 50 to 60, maybe even 70% of my discussion normally goes about the management of people. So we buy into the TIPS model, which I'm sure you must have all heard a lot about and studied a lot about. And for me, the golden thread through everything that we do in our business revolves around our people. And I learned this at a very, very early stage in my career as an executive in an organization. Now, before I tell you the story, I must also tell you the most difficult thing I've ever done. So I've started many businesses. I've grown many businesses. I've been involved in acquisitions, selling businesses, and acquiring new businesses. But the most difficult thing I do on a daily basis, manage people.
Yeah, true.
Okay, there's no beating around the bush. Those of you that look after people will know that 90% of your day will probably be taken up by people, the issues, keeping them happy, making sure that they're happy, and once they're happy, of course, your business is happy. So I learned this, and as you said, we started a business called Dynabed in 1998, and people laughed at us when we said we were going to sell beds over the phone. And we were very, very proud of this little baby of ours that had grown into a huge monster. And then the day came to expand that business. We decided we were opening up a warehouse in Cape Town, employ staff, and very, very quickly we had 3 stores there, employing 60 people between the warehouses and sales, etc. And one Monday morning at 2 o'clock, my phone rang, and it was the worst call I had in my life. Is our warehouse in Cape Town is busy burning down.
Oh, sure.
So by 7 o'clock that Monday morning, I was on a plane down to Cape Town, landed just before 9. And before we left at 7 o'clock that Monday evening, we'd achieved the most important goal that we had to make sure, or we'd set ourselves that morning. And that is that we had alternative premises to give the staff the security that they still had their jobs. Tomorrow they could walk into a new store, although there was nothing, but they could walk into that store and they would have stock to sell tomorrow. And a temporary warehouse was set up for them to dispatch customers' purchased product from. And that day I learned the value and importance of putting your staff first. That is the most important asset. Because by the time we'd landed, people were saying, well, have I still got a job? Should I go and look for another job elsewhere? And just by giving the guys the security during the course of that day, it actually turned our business in Cape Town around, where it became bigger than KwaZulu-Natal, which was the second biggest region at that stage. So I carry that with me every single day. Because whatever I do as a leader of the businesses that I look after, we must put the staff first. So how do we do that? So I always start with an exercise with our staff when we do our strategy. And that is evaluating the values of our business at that moment in time. The culture of our organization at that moment in time. And the common thread that holds all of us together, now interestingly enough, is when you talk about X-Procure, there's 3 businesses under that X-Procure banner. And for my sins, last year, I was given an additional business to look after, which is called Prime Media In-Store. So I look after 4 different businesses, operating in 4 different environments with different customers, different goals. But between those 4 businesses, there's a common thread that pulls us together, and that is the value system, the values in which we believe. So when we start talking with the staff, we typically bring out a big whiteboard and lots of colored pens, and we start saying, okay, so here's a simple scenario. So as a potential employee of our organization, you're out there looking for a new job in whatever. Let's say you're looking to become an administrator. You have the choice to go for an interview at our company and the company right across the road, as luck would have it. So you arrive on that Monday morning for your interview at 8 o'clock, and we conduct the interview with you, and you have a couple of questions for us, and we answer those questions, and you do so well in your interview that right there and there we offer you a position as this admin administrator. And you say, thank you very much, I'm going to consider it, and you walk across the road to your second interview. It's a competitor company to what it is that we do. They're also looking for an admin administrator, and as luck would have it, you ace the interview, and they offer you the exact same position. Now here's the kicker. Both of them offer you the same salary, same working hours, same benefits. You have to make a decision as to which one you're going to go and work for. It's not going to cost you more in fuel because both of them are across the road from each other. And a simple little exercise like that gets the people thinking. And we start writing down, what is it that would make you want to work for company X over company Y? And I start firing away, okay, so maybe it is something to do with the working conditions, so let's explore more. So, and as we start digging deeper and deeper, people actually start telling you what their values are. The things that will make them work here versus there. Those things come down to fun, honesty, integrity, and we end up writing down 100 words. By the end of that exercise, we start putting all of the words together and we start saying, okay, so what is the umbrella word that describes what you guys have actually explained here? And it's an interesting exercise to do, but by the end of that exercise, we like to minimize it down to somewhere around 8 key words that defines the culture of this organization and the values that actually are going to build that culture. And then in our business, so we often walk into companies and we see up against the reception wall is our values, our motto, our mission statement. And what happens? People become blind to those things.
Yeah, it's true.
So we try to entrench our values and culture into the staff with doing it differently. So if you walk through our offices, you'll find wallpaper as part of the decoration around the work areas in which they are. That are fundamentally key to the different sectors of our organization, because we have a help desk, we have a back office that runs technology, we have an ops department, sales department, we have an HR department, and those key words that are important to that little group of people are actually displayed all over the place on the wallpaper. It becomes part of the daily visualization. And our focus is that wallpaper has to change 3 times a year. So as soon as it's up there longer than 4 months, you can ask the guys, what are the values outside your office, and they can't tell you anymore. But as soon as I've changed it, I can walk in and the guys can say, it's integrity, putting the customer first. And it's not keywords, we actually change it into phrases. We then take it one step further. We have a general, what we call a chill area, where our guys all get together, they play a bit of pool in between, warming up lunch, making coffee, etc. And we find that's where the interdepartmental discussions actually take place. And in that environment where they sit and eat, they all come as part of buying into the value system and put their fingerprint on that board when they start with us. And they sign over their fingerprint as their way of buying in. And the overall encompassing value in our business is honesty. So therefore we can have honest discussions with each other to say, Charles, I don't agree with what you've actually just done. What you are doing could potentially compromise our value in terms of customer service or putting the customer first in those focuses. And we can discuss it with no anger, with no backlash. And once we've had that open discussion, we then move on. And there's no talking behind each other's back. That makes sense, right?
Yeah.
So to us, that's very, very important. So as a growing environment, we bring in new people into the sacred little place of ours, where we have all the same values and the same culture, and now we potentially let this outsider in that doesn't have the same culture or value system as us. So we believe that the drive of our values starts with our recruitment. So we spent a lot of money, time and effort in defining our questionnaire when you come for an interview at our business. And we asked veiled questions around how you deal with the scenario if this and this would come up in the workplace, so that we can start understanding what your value system is. And interestingly enough, 80% of the criteria before we employ you is around your values and culture. Then we look for, can you do the job? And if you can't do the job, have you got the ability to put those tools in your toolbox and learn how to do that job properly? So a lot of our time and focus in our business is spent on educating people. So we educate them to do things our way, but we also educate them for the future. So we believe that we bring people in from the bottom level, and by the time somebody in a management or a more senior environment moves on to a different environment, that we have the right people internally. So that comes with its own challenges, by the way, because now I'm stuck with people that don't leave. I got people with 20 years service, 15 years of service, 10 years of service, and we celebrate those successes. So how do we create capacity for junior people that have come in 5 years ago? And we all know this term millennials, because I don't know if any of you deal with millennials on a daily basis. But for me, and Charles, is probably something that I would encourage you to think about in part of your study, is this is a completely different breed of people. To manage millennials versus managing people around my age, it's completely different. Firstly, they walk in, they've just graduated, and expect a salary of half a bar a year. They want to dictate the working hours. They want to dictate what they want to do, when they want to do it, and how they should do it. And if you don't, they sulk. Right? Okay? So you all look like you're old enough to know what kids are like when they sulk. Okay? And you can't treat an employee like a child, obviously. So therefore, we force ourselves to grow our business. Hence the reason why there's now 3 divisions under ExpertCare. Hence the reason why we start developing different divisions under Primedia Install, so that we can create capacity, run those businesses as separate environments in which they specialize, and we grow and develop those people, and they become in turn mentors, so that they can develop their successes. Okay, so that for me is key. We also believe in having fun in our environment. So I don't know if you guys have heard of the Harlem Shake. Yeah? You don't know the Harlem Shake? Okay, so go onto YouTube for those of you who haven't seen the Harlem Shake. I think it's about 3 or 4 years old. So it gained quite a bit of momentum with famous basketball teams coming up with these homemade videos where they would, as the music starts off, you do something boring, and the next thing there's a change of beat, bass kicks in, and all of a sudden everybody's going crazy and they're dressed differently. So we do a lot of these exciting and interesting things in our business, and we do it ad hoc. So there is no set date in our environment for having a strat meeting with our staff, for having an HR meeting with our staff. They get a meeting invite to an event that we're planning, and when they get there we give them the props and we explain to them what it is that we do. And importantly, is everything that we do in those environments has to do something with culture. So very interesting challenge normally is our Jack Friday. So I explained to you what ExpertCare software does. We then identified that, interestingly enough, the liquor supply chain operates on virtually the same methodology as the drug companies do. So now I'm into ordering drugs and liquor. So it's quite an exciting environment, right? So in order to encourage the guys into this new business, we then said Jack Daniels, or the guys from Jack Daniels was our very first customer that we signed up in the liquor environment. They sponsored a whole bunch of Jack Daniels, and we said, okay, now we're going to have a party. So being in a liquor environment, we also felt it important to encourage with this bunch of youngsters responsible drinking. So the important aspect of Jack Friday is nobody's allowed to have more than 2 tots of Jack Daniels. They get lunch, and we put all the ingredients out for them to make hamburgers. But here's the kicker. You have to build a hamburger that encompasses one of the values of our organization. How the hell do you do that? Well, very interesting. We've got creative guys there, and in some way or form they bring innovation. They bring sustainability. They bring fun. They bring honesty into that burger that they build. And we have fun with it. And at the end of the day, each one of them has a driver that can drive them home. when we do that. Because the last thing I want on my conscience is knowing that somebody had 2 drinks at a company function and got locked up for drunken driving, or, heaven forbid, was involved in a bumper bashing or something more serious. So we bring that fun element into everything that we do. Another component that we follow is that we celebrate small things in our business. So if it is your birthday, you get lunch. In fact, all the staff in the business get lunch on that day. We get all of the staff together in the meeting room, and it's not a big formal thing. So it's normally finger snacks. If it is something coupled with a 10-year anniversary or a 15-year anniversary, we'll probably do a bigger spread or a bit of a fancier spread. But we make sure we celebrate anniversaries, when there's pregnancies in the family, and as I say, most important, birthdays. They get a birthday cake. A new thing that we'd introduced is the day after your birthday, you get the day off. We want, and there's a simple reason, we want them to spend their birthday with us because they're special to us. And we explain it to them like that as well. And again, we use those times to talk about the values. Again, so as part of our value of whatever the focus is for that month, we've decided to spoil you for your birthday, and we talk a little bit about it and bring the values back into those discussions. We're also very transparent, and people laughed at us in Prime Media when we said we're going to tell our staff exactly what our strategy is. In fact, we're going to go so far is we're going to allow the staff to dictate what the strategy is for this year. So there's a huge risk around that. So did we actually allow the staff to dictate the strategy for that year? Of course not. We did manipulate the outcome of that strat session. But it was leading the discussion with them at that time. But I can tell you, it was significant, and this was in 2009, when the recession hit. So I got on a plane in October from South Africa to Singapore. And in the, I think, 10 hours that I was in the air, the rand had devalued by 15%. Okay. 2 days later, 30% of our forward bookings had cancelled because of the pharmaceutical industry being very, very reliant on the dollar, the pound, and the euro. And we were in trouble, literally. I know the feeling. So we thought, what are we going to do? So we thought we knew what the answer was. Got all the staff together, and we dictated what we thought the strategy parameters should be. They all gave their input, and as a team, we designed the strategy for that year. And without divulging too much, we increased our turnover from 2008, which was a very successful year in the history of the company. We nearly doubled our turnover in 1 year. And why? Because everybody had a common purpose. They dictated that strategy. They had to deliver that strategy. And coupled with that, obviously comes remuneration. So the better we do, the more our staff get. So I believe that if we need to get to 100 and we get to 110, there's no reason why I can settle for 5 and the staff can get the additional 5. So, and I'm fortunate enough that Prime Media buys into our entrepreneurial belief, and therefore believe in sharing with our staff as well. Okay. So that's become an institution in our environment. So last year when I was given Prime Media in-store, they had just gone through a very, very difficult year. They'd restructured, retrenched nearly 40% of the staff in that environment. And we went on the same exercise. So I rely heavily on things that worked for us previously. Got the staff in, and interesting thing come from the staff. So when I said to them, first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go with the guys that install our media. So when you walk in Pick n Pay, clicks this game and you see media on shelves, that's what Prime Media In-Store does. So I said to them, I'm coming with you guys, the installers. I want to understand what the biggest problem is that you experience. And it turns out we were selling the wrong media to the wrong customers at that stage of time. We brought so we couldn't, we've got 60 media installers around the country, so obviously it's virtually impossible, coming from a very tough trading year, to fly 60 media installers from around the country in. because we can't install. So they elected the guys that they wanted to sit on that panel, came up with a strategy. We grew in an environment. So anybody here from the media environment? No? So to give you an idea, the media environment has shown flat growth, 0% growth year on year for the last 3 years. Prime Media in-store showed growth of nearly 20% year on year last year. Why? The staff. So all of a sudden our media installers take better care in installing the media because they feel proud to do it. It's part of their strategy to make sure that when the advertiser walks into that store, they see a better installed media. And we're growing continually. Okay. We also do other funky things like introduced flexi time. So a big challenge for us is we here in the heart of Sandton. Our building no longer stands. We moved out of it in December and moved just down down into 5th Street here. And then incorporated the Prime Media in-store business into that same building. So we introduced immediately flexi time because we understand our staff come from areas where typically they stayed around 14th Avenue where that head office was. And then introduced the shuttle service as well from the Gautrain station up and down. At lunchtime there's a shuttle up to the mall, and in the afternoon that shuttle runs every 5 minutes up and down to the station. And it's small little things like that. It virtually costs us nothing. We've got a vehicle, pay the fuel, and in fact the guys are now interacting with other divisions within the organization because there's 16 business units in the building that we are in. And all of a sudden we now find salespeople from our division with salespeople from a different division talking, and all of a sudden they realize they got a common customer in Nestle or in Unilever or P&G, and they start sharing leads, and we use that to our benefit. What else is there? We've got the Innovation Hub, as I said, so this is very important to us. So we previously realized that staff are scared to come with crappy ideas. And that's as they call it. They said, nobody listens to ideas, I say it's crappy. So we said, okay, fine. So we went and bought a pot, the ones that you typically use to potty train babies with, and we put it down there and we said, now you put your crappy ideas in that pot. And again, on a weekly basis, we empty that potty and we sit and read through every single suggestion that comes through there. And we have to give the staff feedback on a monthly basis as to what are the crappy ideas we received, which of those crappy ideas we're going to implement. And here's the kicker. If you come up with a great idea, you get rewarded. So you earn points. The more points you earn, the more you can redeem it for funky things which the millennials are into, PlayStation, games, Xboxes, movie tickets, dinner dates with their boyfriends or girlfriends or whatever they have. And then, of course, the more points you accumulate, the bigger the prizes become. We also contribute that towards their bonus incentive at the end of the year. So we say, if you earn a certain level of points, you have the ability to actually double what your bonus would have been at the end of the year for your crappy ideas. And most important is the guy that came up with that crappy idea which we implement becomes the leader of that project. So we kill two birds with one stone. Again, we have ownership in terms of the new innovation that is being rolled out, and we actually educate that person in terms of project management, in terms of mentoring the staff or the team within that environment. And again, it's successful. We even go as far as if we commercialize that crappy idea of yours, for the first year you'll share in the profit from that innovation. So there's a lot of risk around this, I must say. It's not easy to manage. So we rely on a very good HR manager, very good systems. And if you don't have systems to monitor this, it's all going to fall flat. And you have to stick by your word. If all of a sudden you find somebody commercializes an idea to the value of 10 million rand this year, and he shares 5% of the profit of that, you have to be willing to pay him, and pay him with a smile.
Yes.
Okay, and we make a big thing about it. We celebrate it when we do that. Okay. What else is there? I've talked about that. I've talked about the mentorship programs. And then, of course, I think it boils down to all of us having fun. every single day we come into work, we smile. When we leave after the traffic has died. So we actually extend the working hours of our team, naturally, because we create an environment where they want to be. Remember, if you're at work, you spend 60% of your day there. Okay? Then you get home, probably 60% of the 40% that you're home, you spend thinking about work.
Only that.
So it is vitally important for us to have good, valuable employees that feel valued in our organization.
That's true.
I think that's it in a nutshell.
Thank you very much. That was exciting. It does make it clear why you have had, you've been the winner twice in a row. I'm opening the floor for questions, comments.
Ask easy questions, please, guys.
How many
Yeah?
people do you employ, Jenny?
So Primedia In-Store has 90 employees in total. X-Procure has 36. The XP Liquor Environment has only 10 at this stage. And then XP Digital, which is, I didn't talk much about, which is the LCD screens, which you'll find if you go into a Clicks or a Discount. You see LCD screens in those dispensaries is XP Digital. They have 15 employees. So
It's
yeah.
actually not a large staff.
It's not
Relatively.
a large staff complement, and I want to actually dig in a bit deeper to your question there. Is as we grow our businesses, we don't necessarily grow our back end. So the guys that I've got on the help desk works for X-Procure, XP Digital, and
Sure.
the liquor, and now also in-store.
Yeah.
The guys that run and operate the back end for us, there's 6 of them just in X-Procure.
Yeah.
So they sit under the X-Procure banner. But I don't have to go and replicate those heads because I've got the service, I've got the connectivity, and I've got all of that. Yeah. Yes.
So I'm just curious about your recruitment strategy in terms of recruiting for values. I mean, you know, we are an emerging market. People come from different backgrounds. They grow up with a different value system.
Mm-hmm.
So how do you ensure that you find the balance between values that you prescribe versus attitude, and also cater for individuals who come from a different value system, but who could potentially, you know, sort of adopt your value system. So I'm just sort of curious about how do you test for that?
So firstly, we rely on I think a program which we developed over a period of probably 18 months in terms of the questioning. And then we threw all of that out of the window when we got involved with the internship program through Da Vinci, I think about 4 years ago. And we then realized we have people that are educated in this country with no work skill, firstly. And they are typically unemployable because we are always looking for a skilled resource to bring into that environment. They're quick and easy to bring on board. So we rely on interns heavily. So in X-Procure, at this moment in time, we've got about 20 interns alone. So out of those interns that we run in that environment, we'll probably end up employing half between X-Procure's businesses and Primedia In-Store, and the rest of those we push into Primedia. So we're actually becoming a feeding hub to the greater group to a large extent. And what we do is, so we understand there's a fundamental cultural difference. So we also try and educate the guys about township living. So we get guys that come and work for us that stay in a shack in Tembisa. So it's difficult for people that grew up previously privileged to understand the conditions that poor guy has to go through. He walks at 4 o'clock in the morning to grab a cab or a taxi to get to work by 8 o'clock in the morning. So we spend a lot of time getting guys that are perceived to have previously been privileged to work and mentor those guys. So the first thing they have to understand is the fact that you had the privilege of getting into a car this morning, and that at 6 o'clock to get to Sandton by 8, by the way.
Oh my goodness.
And that poor guy that stays half of the distance away, relying on public transport, had to get up at 4 to come to work. So to integrate the different cultures is done through. So if we have an event, we'll actually set up a little spaza shop in our entertainment area for our XP liquor business, for instance, and we'll buy quart beers. So you get guys that have never heard of a quart beer in their life. At the same time, what we do is through a lot of our CSI initiatives, we support soup kitchens. So we bring MasterChef into that, and we've got a panel of judges, and they go make soup for these kids, and we take toys, soccer balls, cricket balls, rugby balls, and play with the kids, make soup, everybody gets fed, and there's overall a competition because the guys are very competitive amongst each other. So we try and integrate our guys to understand that there's different value systems out there and different cultures. But intrinsically,
inside, right?
yes.
And once they're in the organization, I'm just curious
But
in terms of how don't you disintermediate the previously disadvantaged individuals who would not resonate with your value system because they may not have had that exposure. How do you intentionally not disintermediate them from being successful in employment?
So in terms of values, we ask some very, very straightforward questions as well. So we'll start with a question which is pretty easy to answer for most people is, would you find it acceptable to lie to a customer? So it's a very veiled question because there's no right or wrong answer. If you say, I will lie to the customer to protect the image of the business, it's the right answer, essentially. Does it go against the values of our business? Of course, yes, it does. You should not have to lie to a customer. So, and that's a trick question. And then you get the guys that actually lie to you and they say, of course not. I will never lie to a customer. Because that is also a lie. We all lie on a daily basis. Okay, whether it be to my wife, to my boss, to my kids. Okay. So
Research on that.
yes. So I find more value in the person that'll tell me I will lie to a customer to protect the image of this business. Yes, he's got the same value as us. He wants to put the business first. So the fact that he might not understand the concept of having fun in a work environment, because for him there shouldn't be fun in that work environment. For him, work is, I get to work at 8 o'clock, I sit down at my desk, I get my job done, and 4 o'clock I clock out. Are those people I want in my environment? No. But we actually call it in the building, they call it the AAK, which is an Attitude Adjustment Club, which we hand out to people on a daily basis, is to change the attitude and making sure that, yes, you've got fundamentally the same values as what we have, but you need to continue to live those values. The culture will come. You can almost get people to buy into your culture if they want to, if they enjoy the environment in which they work. So there's a whole bunch of questions. We've got a questionnaire of 50 questions that we actually give you a pen and a pencil and a piece of paper. We say, write down your answers. And then we start doing silly things as well. Is we wait 10 minutes and we'll walk in there and we'll say, there's free lunch downstairs. If you'd like to join me, you can come for lunch. So we measure what the guys do at the point where they get a free lunch. And strangely enough, all of the guys that come out of the township say no thanks to the free lunch. It's the oaks that don't need to have the free lunch that always say yes to the free lunch. We've checked it. It's 100% of the time. The guys that don't need to buy the lunch now or to have the free lunch will say thanks, I'll take it.
Why?
So we've probed it. Afterwards, so sorry, I'm interrupting you. So many of the guys say, why did you offer me a free lunch? And why Was it important to you whether I took the free lunch or not? So it wasn't important, but I understand how they value the job. They say they so desperately need to find employment that they will not let anything interfere with this process of finding this job and applying for this job now and putting their best foot forward. Whereas the guy that actually works in there and goes, okay, I'll go and get the free lunch. And we give them hamburgers. For them, it's not important because they've got employment currently. Sorry, before you ask me something, you are interrupted.
Okay, I find a different perspective on that, especially what you said. It has to do with a lot of cultural diversity, and also the psychological effect plays a role. So you find that most of these guys from the informal settlement would rather decline the lunch. So that's how I see it.
Yeah, and we've asked them, and they say the job is more important to me. Right now, I need to find employment.
Yeah, sure.
Don't you think
Sorry, I'm
that,
skipping you again.
that guys who go for the lunch, they want to network and sort of become more social with you?
Yes, you're 100% right. So if we're interviewing for a salesperson, it's important. I want to actually see the guy take the lunch. Because we have all of our other salespeople standing there. And they ostracize that poor person when he actually comes to grab the lunch. They'll say, burgers are over there, help yourself. And they all turn their backs on him and start talking. Because the most difficult thing for a salesperson is what? Being comfortable in strange environments. And penetrating a conversation. And if the guy will start walking over and make chit-chat and actually become part of the group, and some of them, it's a very interesting dynamic to actually see. Because what they'll then also do is we actually measure also how they react to authority. So I'll walk in halfway through that discussion. And everybody will put their knives and their forks down. And they go, sorry, the boss is here. And then this poor oak is standing and he doesn't know, should he put his knife and fork down? So just putting people in uncomfortable situations. And I mean, I make it sound like we're really, really messing with these people's minds, which we're not. You know, we don't do it so deliberately. But we rely on our salespeople to actually then say, listen, this oak actually came into the conversation so easily. He'd done some research about our organization and he started asking questions about that as the way into our organization. So for people like that, tick the box. He immediately scores a high score on that little part of the exercise. But again, if I need a software developer, and our business, by the way, our software developers are sitting in a room half of the size of this behind doors. Why? Because software developers are not people's people. They bark at our staff, you know. So a salesperson will go, hey, I got this great idea. And the developer will go, leave me alone. Why? Because right now they're focused on the development that they're doing. They've been thinking about this. They haven't slept for 3 nights, and all of a sudden they've got a solution to solving this problem. And while they're busy coding, they cannot be interrupted. So as a salesman or anybody walks into that office, they're distracted and they lose their train of thought. So if I have a software developer that walks in there and how's it guys, and he's the life of the party, I can tell you now he's not a good developer. I've never found a good developer that is socially a magnet. Okay. So and again, it's understanding the culture of a software developer, the persona of that developer versus a salesperson. Am I answering you? Sorry, I just want to. I've been shutting you down 3 times already.
Yeah. Now that we established a pattern of behavior of people, like you're able to say that all the time you ask that question, this set of people acted in a particular way. Another set of people acted in a entirely different way. So you have to establish a pattern.
Yeah.
And for whatever reason that happens, whatever you have tried to give an explanation, but when you employ them, do you also see a pattern of performance?
Do I see? Sorry.
Also
A pattern of
performance. You know, from this set of people, will you be able to segregate to find out whether these people perform in a particular way and these other people perform in a particular other way? I don't know whether you'll be able to do that. That's one question. There's another question I had wanted to ask you originally is this. I picked that you try to make the work environment very friendly. somebody came here some time back and they made a presentation where he said that about 80% of workers hate their work. Yeah, what I'm actually trying to say is the fact that you have been able to make your work environment a fun place is one good thing, which I picked from what you're saying. But have you also discovered whether these people really like that job, like the fun? Nobody has ever protested and walked out in anger and said, I don't want to do that thing anymore, I don't want to be here anymore, that kind of. Nobody has. Has it been so?
Yeah.
Yeah. Have you? Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So I want to answer two issues that you raised.
Yeah. 2 questions.
So we run climate surveys through independent companies through Prime Media. So although we track the IP addresses because we're taking them, no, I'm joking. So we do run climate surveys with our staff. So we measure satisfaction in terms of job satisfaction, salary, in terms of benefits, and growth. We measure their happiness against their managers and their subordinates as well. And we're very fortunate. We come up extremely high in those surveys, consistently, year in and year out. So to the point where as part of our strat, we actually see it as a risk to our business, where we could have people that should be leaving that aren't leaving. So things I didn't mention to you is we do salary benchmarking. So we make sure that we pay people a competitive salary. There was something else. And when you say we have a fun environment, we also manage our people with very, very high expectation. So everybody has a KPI document. We do KPIs 3 times a year in our business. So the benefit of that is when you're not performing, you know it. When you're not getting an increase, because there's no secret in our business as well. If you don't perform, there's no increase. You will work for the same salary for the next year. However, we're also nice guys. We'll give you the opportunity to earn your increase. So by the time we have a discussion with you in June saying, this is the increase in salary, and you're not getting anything, by the way. It's not a surprise to you. You already know it. And then we'll say, we'll give you another chance. So here's your KPIs that you have to achieve by December this year. If you do, we'll back pay you your 6 months of increase and we'll actually activate your increase from Jan. So we believe in giving people the opportunity. Why? Because there are personal situations out there. Oak might be going through a divorce. He might have lost a loved one in his family. So we do manage with a lot of pressure around our people. So when we work bloody hard. And when we play even harder. So are there people in our organization that are unhappy? The guys that aren't performing. Now, the interesting thing, again, and I mention it year in and year out in our presentation at the TT100, we do not have to dismiss people. They leave out of their own accord. They realize they do not fit in. We've had guys where we've employed them, and then in a week they come to us and they say, dude, this isn't for me. I cannot stand the pressure under which you guys operate. We say, please go. By all means, go. So I'm almost nervous now. I've painted this picture of a perfect marriage, which it's not. So it's not a perfect environment. Yes, we have issues with staff. But the other thing I also want to mention to you is when I started at Prime Media in Store, it was a very unionized environment. As of, I think, the end of Feb this year, we didn't have one staff member as part of a union. And not one of us went to our staff and say, you should not be part of the union. In fact, we encouraged them when they started resigning from the union to remain part of the union. Because we said there are benefits that come with it. And they go, all of a sudden, it's not necessary for us to have a union. You guys have changed our lives positively with salary benchmarking. You communicate with us open and honestly whether we're going to get a bonus, what the bonus criteria is. We have facilities to eat. We have clean facilities. We moved our whole warehouse because it was in an unsafe environment in Lee Glen. Said, I will not stand for any of our staff to have to go to work. Every time I went to that warehouse, I was like, should I get a bodyguard? So if I feel like that, why should I allow our staff to feel like that? We moved that warehouse within 3 months into a safer environment in Randburg. So the guys go, well, those are the things that are important to us. When you asked us what is important, we said our salaries, we want a bonus, our working conditions must be clean, neat and tidy, and we need transparency from you. Stuff they hadn't had before. Giving them that, and we had the discussion with the HR lady now. She's busy consulting with our guys with the current appraisals and encouraging them to continue to be part of the union. Because the last thing we want is people saying we take advantage of the staff because there's no union representation. Okay, did I answer you?
Yeah, you did, but you didn't tell me about the pattern, whether those guys perform much.
Oh, yes, sorry, I didn't answer you. Sorry. Okay, so it comes down to personality types. I'm going to get to it. So we understand the personality type of an accountant is somebody, again, that's not a social butterfly. Salespeople bounce off the walls. Our developers are not social butterflies either. Our help desk technicians are typically young, entrepreneurial IT gurus. They come out of school. They want to get. They all want to come and create some amazing app which they're going to sell for $1 billion, but they haven't got money to go and study how to do it. So we understand the personality type. Very, very important. So if I'm looking for a salesperson, I look for those personality characteristics versus a developer for those personality characteristics, and I make sure I get them. And yes, again, do we get it wrong sometimes? Of course we do. So we might end up with somebody, they come in there and they interview, and they look like the most dynamic sales manager you're ever going to employ. And they're bouncing off the walls and we go. 3 months later, the oak sits in his office, he doesn't talk to his staff at all. They don't know what's happening. If you ask him what his sales targets are, he doesn't know. How the hell did we get that wrong? And not only me, our group CEO interviewed the guy. But we can get it wrong sometimes, yes. Sorry,
Okay.
Don't stress at all. All interesting. 2 questions. First of all, I'm curious about your leadership philosophy in terms of the organization. And secondly, you talked about how much you're investing in development and training.
Yeah.
And you're doing everything else very innovatively. How are you doing training and development?
Okay, so you're asking me about philosophy. So I don't know anything about philosophy.
Leadership.
No. So,
Leadership.
so I firstly believe is if I'm expecting anybody in our organization to do something, I should be willing to do it. So I got to where I am today because I did the things other people wouldn't do or couldn't do. As I said to you, when I started at Prime Media Install, for instance, nobody from the management team had ever been on an installation with them. So I should be able to do the installations, I should be able to do the warehousing, the distribution, and if my staff work late, I'm there with them. So it sounds very, very much like something that Charles would love to touch on. When I was at Dialabed, we moved our warehouse in the middle of winter, and we ran into all types of complications with our distribution channel. But I made sure I was there with our staff to lock up the warehouse at 1:30 in the morning. And tomorrow morning, when the first shift got there at 5:30 to start dispatching at 6, I was there with them. So that's the first part of what I believe is if I expect them to do something, I should be willing to do it with them. The fact that I have a fancy title means absolutely nothing. Secondly is I believe very, very heavily in personal power versus positional power. We talked about it early on. So I want people to do things because JD wants them to do it. And then lastly is honesty. If I'm happy with what you're doing, you'll know it. But you will also know if I'm not happy about what you're doing.
Good.
And sorry, I encourage our whole management team to manage like that. Our ops director is a guy that started on our help desk 11 years ago. He's our ops director today. Our future sales director started off putting computer boxes, servers together with nuts and bolts. He's going to be our sales director. Go.
Training development.
Oh, sorry, training and development. So we rely again heavily from an HR point of view and the group structure. So Prime Media Group has a big training academy, so we rely heavily on that. Everything is make sure again everything is CETA accredited firstly, and secondly we also do a development plan for each of the guys on our succession plan. So everybody in our business has a succession plan. From the that recently started, within 6 months of you starting, you have a succession plan, and you'll know whether you're part of that succession plan or not. And it's important to know also that a guy, when he becomes a technician in our environment, he might want to be a technician for the rest of his life. Not everybody has aspiration to be a manager. So we also try and balance recruitment around that.
Okay. I think we're having so much fun that we're already over our time.
Oh, sorry, I apologize, guys. It happens all the time when I start speaking.
No, it's fascinating to hear the inner workings. You know, I always think about the secret life of a company, and we don't always understand what is it that makes a company successful and what it is that sort of inhibits or yeah. So I want to say thank you very much. Where's Storm? Oh, he's disappeared. Then I always ask him to do the gift, you know, because there's a bit of an explanation, and when I just started at Da Vinci, I was worried I would forget the explanation. But anyway, so the explanation is more or less that there's a puzzle in here, okay? And as our honored guest, we want you to please go and do that puzzle and time it and say how quickly you've been able to do it,
Okay.
and let us know.
What is the record? See, I'm very
What
competitive.
you say? Ask Storm. Davey, this was fabulous.
No, thank you very
very,
much.
very much. I really
appreciate it.
enjoyed it. Thank you very much.